Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 41 of the Vito x DINO podcast. My name is Vito Delsante. His name is Dean Haspiel.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dean Haspiel.
41, huh?
41. That's when I got my driver's license at age 41.
I remember that. And I
I
think
didn't think
41, I thought I was a little bit older, actually.
I didn't think I would ever drive a car because I don't like what cars do to the environment. I don't like what it does to animals
And to my pocketbook.
and the pocketbook. But I
No,
realized
I
I had
mean
been
mine specifically because of all the troubles I've been having with
oh
cars.
my God, exactly. Why would you drive a car? But you have to, in your case, you
I
have
think,
to.
I think if anybody were to ever be talked out of driving a car, all they have to do is talk to me.
Yeah. No, but I also realized that I had been driven around a lot. So why don't I learn how to drive so I can pay it back to some degree? And and then also I realized that most people driving, if they have their faculties, are trying to avoid hitting each other. And that helps.
Well, yeah, that's a defensive driver, basically.
Yeah, defensive drivers to try not to hit somebody else. And then, of course, there's the jerk offs on the highway. They're just speeding all around you, no indications or anything. And then you're just waiting for an explosion ahead of you, at
Right,
some point,
right.
and it never happens. Anyway, yeah, so 41 was when I got my driver's license, and I have not gotten a ticket yet.
Knock on wood.
Uh, no, I once I got like a parking ticket, and it was wrong. I
Oh,
was trying
yeah,
to park my car and Jen's car because
I
she was
remember this.
away.
This is only a
I think
couple
I
months
told
ago.
that was like a year and a half ago, whatever.
Oh, okay.
And like but she was up the block, and I had parked my car, and I went over to her, and by the time I came back to my car, they were trying to whatever something happened where I think Jen got the ticket. That's who got the ticket.
Ah,
And oh wait, I think I had gotten a speeding ticket. These nefarious little red lights. Sometimes right as they're
yeah.
about to enter a highway or something. But whatever. Um, I have a pretty good
Track record, basically.
track record, literally on the track.
Mm.
Uh, I wanted to. I'm sure you have topics. I have a couple of things I want to talk about,
Yeah.
but I wanted to acknowledge, and I have this in my hand, Hostess Cupcakes. I wanted to acknowledge my late brother Mike's 57th birthday today.
Yeah. I was gonna bring that up as well.
Yeah, man. It's weird to think about like, a brother who or someone in your family or anybody who's passed away so young. I think my brother was 37 when he passed away in 2005.
That's insanity.
And
Absolute insanity.
so he lived 37 years, right?
Mm.
And one of the things that popped in my head a couple of years after his death was like, if I'm lucky, I'll have lived another 37 years than he did,
Right.
which is what, 67? It's like 74 when I hit 74. And that'll be so weird for me to think that I lived a whole other lifetime of his. So
Like 37 years without him, or
exactly.
however many years difference you are.
Yeah,
I had a
exactly.
similar thought about my dad. My dad died when he was 38.
Wow.
I was 15. So when I got to 38, I was like, oh, maybe now I can start living because I've outlived him. You know what I mean?
Right.
I can, and like I've like done that and then some. It's crazy, like to think
Right.
that, and it's weird is that like I've spent most of my life without him in my life because he and my mom weren't together,
Right.
and yet he's such this looming presence in my life.
Well, he's
Like
probably even more of an idea and a concept than
at this point, yeah.
you know, yeah, because he wasn't around when he didn't. Was he a father to you or
The
a
year that he
biological father?
Yes, the year that he died, we had this weird, we became friends almost. Like I said, I was 15, and like it wasn't like I don't think we were trying to make up for lost time. I think we were just trying to establish a new kind of relationship because going forward, it was going to be different no matter what. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, he wasn't really around growing up, like I tell this story of how my dad, one year for Christmas, I asked him for the G.I. Joe headquarters because I was really big into
Mm,
G.I. Joe. and he never got it until, and he never got it to me. Maybe he even got it that day, but he never got it to me until May of the following year. And then my
Right.
birthday's in June, and I was asking for something for Christmas. And he goes, "I just got you that headquarters." I mean, I
Oh,
asked me for something for my birthday, and I was just like, well, "You're my
what?
dad."
You're my dad. What the
Like,
hell, man? You're supposed to be
yeah,
showering me with presents, dude.
I thought I
You
was the
know?
one that was taking on the name
Right,
and launching everybody further. I don't know.
right. Well,
Oh, I got
here's a
a
cupcake to my brother Mike,
Mike.
and maybe what do you got to drink? What kind of drink is that?
I got a Fago Black Cherry. The Juggalos would love me.
Oh, sweet. Geez, that's
Yeah,
that's an actual drink.
yeah.
Wow.
I feel like he would enjoy that. Being a Migo fan and all that.
Hmm.
Fago sounds like Migo. Mike was a big
Hmm.
Migo guy.
Yep. Yep.
So here's
He's
to
in
you.
the Hall of Fame, the Migo Hall of Fame,
That's right.
for his customized Migo designs and whatnot. So what's up going on your end while I eat this cake?
Well, it's funny, I'll save that for later, like because it's a downer a little bit. But while you were in Baltimore, which we'll talk about here in a second, what was I doing? I was catching up on movies. Like
Mm.
I watched so many. I watched one, two, three, four, and five today movies. Like in the span
Wow.
of like a week. So I'll give you like a quick rundown of what I watched. I watched the 1981 version of Excalibur, which was with Helen Mirren as Morgana. Um, Everybody had always been talking about it, and like I thought I'd seen it or at least saw pieces of it, but it was so unfamiliar to me. Like as I was watching, I was like, maybe I never saw this. Maybe I saw a different Excalibur or something like that. And it's not that great. Like it's not.
It's not that great because I started watching it a couple of years ago, remembering thinking, "Oh my God, this movie is incredible" from when I was younger.
Yeah,
And I started showing it to Jen, and I was like, "Yo, this is slow. This is crazy slow." But I feel like you do get to a part where like there's this epic battle.
yeah.
They're all just kind of standing around, but like it was a very different type of choreography, you know.
I think
And
it
that's what recommends it. I think
well, that and I think the
partially.
costume design. I think the costume design was amazing. Like the Mordred, like golden armor with the face and the hair on it. I think is stunning.
Yeah,
Piece of like costume design. But like otherwise, I don't see it as very as special as everybody else does. Like it just seems,
yeah.
you know less
I think
than
it was just super different from. It was almost like I forget who the director is, but it's almost
John
like,
Borman.
oh, John, did he do Exorcist too?
I don't remember. I'd have to look that up. But yeah, I like it was so weird. He put his wife in the movie. He put his kid in the movie. It's like, oh my goodness, what is this? Like a low budget film?
Well, it's
Anything
almost like
but.
it's almost like a semi-autobio version
Almost, yeah.
of fantasy, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that's what the difference felt like at the time. Like that's why it felt different,
Uh,
you know. You said that was the 1981 version. There's been another Excalibur.
there had to have been. He did do Exorcist 2. You're
Oh
correct.
God,
He did Deliverance.
I like that movie.
He did Point Blank with Lee Marvin, one of my favorite movies.
Great movie.
He also did Zardoz with Sean Connery, which,
That was fun.
yeah, that was a movie.
Yep. Yep.
He had a pretty good career. I mean, no offense to him, but I don't think that this one was the one. He's still
Right.
around, so good
Right.
for him.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so I saw that. Then I saw Alfred Hitchcock's Rope.
Oh my God, Vito,
What an amazing movie.
the best.
Yeah.
That's my favorite Hitchcock movie.
I was gonna say, I think it's better to me than definitely. I definitely enjoyed it more than Psycho. Um, I definitely it's up there with Rear Window for me. Rear Window was the one that I really, like really enjoyed and like it has that same type of tension and stuff. So this one,
But you know how he shot it, right?
it's supposed to be one unedited cut, but you can tell where the cuts are.
Well, it's like so he was working back then. You could only get 16 minutes of celluloid or film
Mhm.
in a canister or whatever, so you could shoot that much. And so he would stage it to be about every scene or every part of the movie would end at 16 minutes where someone's crossing across the camera or something,
Well,
or
what he does is he takes the camera and like zooms in on someone's jacket, on the back of their
right,
jacket, and
right,
the screen goes almost black, and then
right.
he zooms out, as they move.
That's right.
It's
Right,
really clever, and it's funny because like I was like, oh, this is like that's definitely a cut, like not that I knew anything
right,
about it, but like
right.
um the thing that I find crazy, not crazy, but like impressive is that kind of like I don't want to say restriction, but it works well because it was originally a stage play.
And you couldn't tell. I mean, it definitely is a play,
Yeah, because it
but
takes
and I
place in
guess
one
it must
setting.
have been that first, right?
Yeah.
And a fun fact is because my godmother Shelley Winters, when I used to hang out in her apartment, her upstairs neighbor was Farley Granger.
Yes.
So Farley Granger used to come down all the time and hang out.
Ah.
And he was really cool. He's in that movie. He's also in Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train.
Mhm.
And I don't know if he did more than two Hitchcock movies. But and then Jimmy Stewart is so good in this movie because he's just kind of like he's like the professor,
Yeah.
and he's really cool. And like the one guy, it's like these two jilted lovers that have murdered someone, right? And like they're trying to hide this piece of evidence, this piece of rope, while having a cocktail dinner. And one of the guys, I forget the actor's name, has a lot of ego, and a lot of
Mhm.
bravado. And he wants to like he really wants to fool his professor and prove that he is a smarter man than Jimmy Stewart is,
Yeah.
and Jimmy Stewart slowly turns into this genius that you're like this common mild mannered dude,
So the
you
thing,
know?
the thing about Jimmy Stewart's character in the movie is that he's so cavalier
Yeah,
at first, but he's picking up on clues throughout. And
yep,
like you think he's a detective, but he's not. He's like their headmaster, like their former
right,
headmaster or something like that. And he's so like calm and so like he's starting to put pieces together and he's starting to like ask the right questions. And then he comes back, and that part where he comes back and he's like sitting there and there's a gun involved and stuff, but like
yeah, yep,
like there's a real tension because Jimmy Stewart sits down in this chair, and the two guys are standing above him, and like you can feel that looming sense of danger.
yep,
Like I mean, obviously it's a Hitchcock movie; it's well done, but like it's
yeah.
really well done.
It's so good. It's and the writing and the storytelling and the tension.
Do you know
It's
who
great.
adapted the play? Um, or he didn't adapt the play to the screenplay. He wrote the story from the play that was adapted to the screen. It's so convoluted. But Hume Cronin, the actor Hume Cronin, did that.
Wait, Hume Cronin, what was he in?
I believe he was in
I have to look him up.
Cocoon. He was
Oh,
for all of our lives. He was always this old guy. Like he was in a lot of different.
oh, that guy's face.
Yeah, he
Wow.
was a big character actor in the '60s and stuff as well.
Oh, so he helped adapt the stage
Yeah,
into the movie version,
yeah. Like it was weird seeing his name in the credits. It was like, oh my goodness, look at that.
and he's not even in the movie.
No, not at all. He
That's
might have been in the
interesting.
play. Who knows? But like,
Right, right,
Um,
right.
it was like
Wow,
it was a really like I'm glad I watched. I'm glad I bought it actually because it was
so
only like
good.
$5.99. It's worth watching over and over again.
And that's the kind of movie I don't do this a lot, but that's the kind of movie I could watch once a year. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. I
There
could.
is a movie I watch once a year when I can. That'll be on this list that we're gonna
Mm.
do a little later, which is
We
one for the Cuckoo's Nest.
yeah we
I'm
talked.
sorry, not one for the Cuckoo's Nest. Jesus Christ! Although that's an incredible one to watch
Uh,
every year too. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
oh my God, that movie.
That's another play.
Well, let's talk about that when we
We'll
talk
talk
about
about that
it.
later. Yeah.
Then I watched the last two Daniel Craig Bond movies, which were Spectre and No
Yep.
Time to Die.
Yep.
Spectre was it wasn't the worst Bond movie of those five, but it wasn't great. Like there are some nice set pieces and stuff, but like
It's okay. I love
it's
all those
okay.
movies.
It's
Right.
okay. That's a really
It's
good
okay.
assessment.
Right.
But No Time to Die, my God.
Oh my God.
Sam Mendes didn't direct this one. It was Cary Fukunawa, I think.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
like it's just so like the beginning of the movie like is so tense and so
Yeah.
like before you get to the opening credits, it's so good. Rami Malek is the bad guy. He's fantastic.
There
So
was a conceit that Rami's villain had with to do with blood, which I'm forgetting what that was right now. And I felt, ooh, I've not seen that
yeah,
before.
it had something to do with nanobots that basically could attack DNA.
And if
Like,
he touched anyone, it would transfer. So it meant that his blood was infected
right.
and that he could not be around. He couldn't love anyone. He couldn't be around anybody, you
Yeah,
know? So he was basically a death sentence, you
such
know?
a good story too.
Yeah.
They like the I watched a video a couple weeks ago, or maybe last week, about the last two, about Spectre and No Time to Die, and it was saying that it was supposedly a reimagining of Her Majesty's Secret Service with George Lazenby.
Uh-huh.
Instead of the wife dying, spoiler,
Right.
James Bond dies.
Right.
But at the same time, I could say spoiler alert, but at the very end, I watched the credits just because I don't know, like now because of Marvel, I'm so attuned to watching credits, even when I know there's no, what do you call it?
Right.
Post-credit scene.
Right.
But it says James Bond will return. So I
Will
think
return.
that's like, even though you're getting a spoiler, I feel like you're not in a way, like it's crazy.
Well, they just announced James Bond new actor. They just announced today who's been offered the James Bond role now.
Who was it?
Uh oh, come on. Um, hold on. Here we go. I'm looking at him right now. Say the name. Um, sorry. Aaron Taylor Johnson,
Oh, okay. The guy who played Kick-Ass.
who played Kick-Ass, and also, oh no, he didn't do the Mark Millar James Bond-esque type character.
No, he wasn't in Kingsman. He was in
Right.
Kick-Ass. He played
Right.
Quicksilver in Age of Ultron,
Right.
and
Right.
he also just played Craven.
He's done a lot of kind of dumb roles, but he's also played some really great roles, and I think he's a really good
Oh,
actor.
he's definitely an interesting guy. Like his presence is very interesting. I like him a lot, actually.
And I think he would be a great Bond, you know. So, and then what they're gonna do is start it like over again. I mean, they kind of did that with who was the recent Bond?
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig.
Mhm.
Daniel Craig. They started the beginning where he's not so slick. In fact, the first movie he did, he's a little more ruffian, you know, and like
Mhm.
fisticuffs. At the very end, I think he puts on a nice suit, you know, like to transition to the James Bond we're more familiar with, you know.
Right.
I like that about him. That was a good run of James Bond. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and this is an interesting versus. Ready?
Yeah.
James Bond versus Mission Impossible.
I feel like Mission Impossible being a team that has to have like specialists.
Q. James Bond got Q.
True, but he's not like, and you can say M is part of his team, but they're not really a team. Like his quartermaster is just somebody that provides the weapons and stuff. But James
Mm.
Bond's the one out in the field, whereas Mission Impossible, it's a couple of different people. I mean, granted, the Mission Impossibles that we have now with Tom Cruise is always the head of the team, so
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
doing most of the heavy lifting. I would still say James Bond just because of like I there are very few James Bond movies I don't like. I mean, we could talk about the misogyny and like the blatant um like racism in some of the chapters, not in the current run, but like I feel like the Daniel Craig stuff really kind of solidified who Bond is in my head. You know what I mean? I think the better verse is almost James Bond versus John Wick,
Well, this is okay. Actually, I would give you a little bit that for something I was going to criticize about James Bond
which is what?
versus Ethan. What's
Hunt.
his name?
Yeah, Ethan
Hunt
Hunt.
from Mission Impossible. Ethan Hunt, we get to know him
Yeah.
big time. We hardly know. In fact, that's what they tried to do with this, the Daniel Craig version, was to give us a little backstory. And when you got it, you're like, okay, fine. You know, we have a little backstory. Whereas Ethan Hunt, it wasn't even that he had backstory. Is that like we had like girlfriends and wives
Yeah.
involved. you know, and like and like who is this guy and why does he keep doing this, you
Do you
know?
think it's kind of the director writer's choice, or do you think it's part of the character that it doesn't matter if we know much about James Bond? Like they made Blofeld his foster brother in this,
Really?
yeah, in Spectre.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
And it's just a
Um,
dumb addition, but like at the same time,
like John Wick, even though they do also give backstory to John Wick now, because he's like what half Russian and
hmm,
half something else, and you know, and that's okay, that's fine. It kind of gives him a little more skin in the game. But we know about as much about John Wick as we do James Bond, and
yeah,
I feel
basically.
more connected to Ethan Hunt, I guess is
Mhm.
the difference, you know. So, and out of all those guys, the thing that's interesting about John Wick is that we're the set pieces are just literally people shooting each other to death.
People dying.
Just shooting. It's just bullets with this silly idea that his suit is bulletproof, you
Right.
know? And like, okay, I accept it. Is how they can keep shooting at each other, constantly different ways of how to like, you know, shoot each other. And maybe a little bit of kung fu and you know, but we don't have like the insane set pieces that James Bond will yield or Mission Impossible, you know?
Well, the dirty word about a lot of these things is realism. Like how realistic can it be? And like so like the set pieces are always in like an actual existing city.
Right.
Let's say like the Burj Khalifa in one of the Mission Impossibles where he's on the side of the building.
Yeah.
Or in James Bond, he's in Italy, he's in Jamaica in this last one. Uh, some disputed land between Russia and Japan,
Right.
it's where the climax takes place. And then in John Wick, it's all New York mostly.
Right.
Like I
Right.
like
Or the Baba Yaga, wherever he has to go see the Baba
right.
Yaga.
So it's
Well, the stakes are this. Ready? I'm thinking about this. First of all, did you see the last two Mission Impossible movies?
I
Have you
did
seen the
not.
last
Dead
four?
Reckoning. No.
Vito, do it.
No,
That's
I
your
plan
next
on
week's mission
it.
is to watch those
Should
two
I choose to
movies.
accept it or my computer
Exactly.
will blow up?
You blow or your laptop will die. But it's so good. In fact, watch all the what's his name, Macquarie, the guy he works with these days.
Oh, Christopher McQuarrie, yeah.
Watch those Mission Impossibles. I think there's four or five of them in a row.
Ah,
The last four or five. It just ups the ante in a way that's so incredible. I think you'll dig it. Um, but I was just gonna say, like, we're talking about John Wick, James Bond, Ethan Hunt, guys who are don't have superpowers. But when they get into these pickles, you know, and if they're realistic enough,
right.
you're in that pickle and you're wondering what the hell you would do versus like Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, Fantastic Four. It's they humanize those characters, right?
I'm
But
gonna
there's no way you could do what they do.
I'm gonna add one more character to this mix, and his name is Dominic Toretto. Do you know who this is?
No.
This is Vin Diesel's character in Fast and the Furious.
Oh, I've never seen one of those movies.
I don't know that I think you would enjoy them because they borderline absurd. Like
Sure.
they start off kind of like in like first one, it's kind of like street racing, like illegal street
Right.
racing. And by the last one, they're driving a car in space. They're
Of course.
driving. Wait, time out. I want you to process that sentence. They're driving a car in space.
Yes. I was just gonna say the last one they must have just like Jason from Friday the
Yeah.
13th was in outer space at one
Mm,
point, right?
mm.
Like it's absurd. I mean, that's where you go.
So
I did it
so
with the Red Hook,
so
you
then
know,
like
like
yeah, totally. So with these four guys, like, do you think superheroes, I don't want to say are necessary, oh, but like they do everything a superhero does. So why would we need in a world with like a John Wick or a James Bond? Why would we need a superhero? You know what I mean?
or even better, Clint Eastwood, the man with no name,
Sure.
you know, a fistful of dollars,
Yeah.
the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like I love those movies. I think we connect to those characters a little bit more than we would necessarily to again a superhero. But the superhero movies and stories can do stuff that let's just say the more realistic or plausible movies uh, does, and that it doesn't mean that it's better. You know,
Mhm.
I think I've seen one Harry Potter movie, but I have a feeling that like people who love Harry Potter like magic,
Right,
somewhat to some
right.
extent. Right? So I don't know. I mean, I'm a monster movie guy too. Like I love monster, Godzilla,
Sure.
Frankenstein. The Universal monsters. Like that's my wheelhouse.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
So
The thing that I was just thinking was that like, so now we have these four, male, like you could throw it if you've never seen you or anybody watching, listening, if you've never seen Atomic Blonde
oh
or
right,
the which is based on a comic, I should point that
yep,
out, or what was the Gina Davis, The Long Goodbye, I believe it's called,
yep, yep,
the Gina Davis movie. Like if you take those two characters and put them in, you have a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen type of team
yep,
of like amazing, realistic human characters. Take Halle Berry's character that was in the third John Wick,
right,
that
right,
as well. It doesn't have to be male dominated, but like these movies are mostly male dominated.
yep.
But the question then becomes, I can only think of somebody, the only person I can think of doing a comic like this is Howard. Like
Shake it to do what kind of comic you mean?
like a James Bondish spy, or a
Sure. You
I
mean
think,
Howard Chaykin? You're talking about Howard Chaykin,
yeah, I
yeah,
think Howard's like that's his wheelhouse. Like he can think in those terms. I can't think of
yeah,
Tom King is another one when he did Human Target, like as
right,
another character that I think lends
right.
itself, and Tom's writing with not just Human Target, but even some of the stuff he does with Wonder Woman, like does lend itself to this type of quote unquote realistic character existing in a non-realistic world, maybe.
Totally, totally. I
But
mean, and you would think there'd be a lot more. There's probably a lot
that's
more who
that's what I'm
can.
guessing at. Like, why aren't there more? Like, it's hard. Maybe it's hard to sell a comic with a guy's name on it instead of like something man. Like
Maybe. I mean, but then we have the famous pulp characters like the Shadow, which
right.
Howard has done. We have Doc Savage, which is a great name.
Mhm.
The Spider, there was the Spider. And I'm trying to think of other, you know, Richard S. Prather had a character named Shell Scott,
Uh-huh.
which is an okay name. Uh, but like, we're always trying to come up with, I have a character that I don't know what to do with, but the name is Dick Move. I mean, it sells itself.
You say it and you wait for the response. Like you know exactly what the response is, and like you say it and you're just like you're like
Yeah,
you're like Bob Hope telling a joke and looking into the camera.
that's right.
And
I mean,
then
what kind of character? What's a good pulp character? Or John Carter, right? Warlord of
yeah,
Farm.
yeah. I was always fond of Captain Satan just because of
Hmm.
his name. Like he had nothing to do with like the
Yep,
devil or anything, but the name
yep,
is just like so evocative. Like it just kind of sings off of the page.
totally, totally.
Uh,
And you have fun with that. I mean, there's so many characters like that. We could go all night. So
and
yeah,
one more movie that I watched, which was today, which is like, and I've seen this movie a bunch of times. I've seen the musical a couple of times, literally twice. I watched Hair today from 1979,
never seen it.
one of my favorite musicals of all time. And
Wow.
the weird thing that happened today is like I said, I've seen this movie three or four times, and maybe this was the fourth time. Saw the musical. It's two different things. Like they're not close to each other at all. Like there's a weird thing that happens that Milos Forman does in the movie that I'm not sure why he does that, but
Hmm.
like today I found myself crying at the end.
Wow.
Just like I said, I know the music. I've seen it a couple of times, and I'm like, man, this thing still moves me. You know,
Yep.
I
I
love it.
need to see it. I need to see it. Yeah. Was that what's the lead actor's name?
Pete Williams.
Treat Williams. I saw him in a bunch of movies. He's a really cool actor.
He is. Speaking of, John Savage is the other lead actor in the movie.
John Savage. He's in
Um,
a he's in one of my favorite movies, Deer Hunter.
Thank you. I'm doing that. I'm like people can't, on the podcast can't see this, but I'm shooting a gun for some
Yep.
reason. Like,
Yep.
and Dean automatically knew that was Deer Hunter. Beverly D'Angelo's in it. Annie Golden's in it.
Oh
Um,
wow. And they
like
all get naked?
just Beverly D'Angelo, I think.
Good old Beverly.
I can't say I think, but I think she's the only one that does. I mean,
Sure.
Treat Williams' butt at one point, I'm sure, but
Right, right,
a couple
right.
times.
So what got you into this movie groove? I guess because you were experiencing a little bit of Comic-Con FOMO, and then
Yeah,
you're like,
absolutely. Like it totally was. Like I was just, I wanted, number one, I wanted something to distract myself from, not being, at Baltimore. Uh,
right,
like I don't think that I could ever fully explain how much anguish and like how much it hurt to not be there. Like it was just like
yeah,
it was literally like painful, like that there
yeah.
was no way I could ever make it
And
down.
we're talking specifically Baltimore, right?
Yes, yes. Because I mean that's my family, like
Right,
Mark and
right.
Shelley, their kids, Reese and Natalie, like I just, like and then seeing all of you guys and seeing, Charlie and seeing
Yep.
Miscavige, who I really never see
Well,
maybe.
we definitely missed you, man, big time. And I tried to ape something that I've just sent to your phone that I don't know if you can share
Okay.
onto the podcast. Uh, I was paying homage to you.
Here it is. It's Dean looking through the curtain.
That
Somebody
you
else did this. Miscavige and I think Charlie did it as well. And I'm like, you bastards! Like, what are you
Oh,
talking?
I did it with Miss Skevich, this girl Natasha, and Eddie. Eddie and his dad come to Baltimore every year.
Mhm.
You'd recognize when you saw him. So I
Right,
did
right.
like a trio version of that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
missed
you started it,
John and Derek. I miss seeing. Like those two.
right?
Like whenever you go to Baltimore, their presence. And like this year they had a table, and I feel bad that I missed that. Like
Pat Rack, and Thunder Bunny.
yeah,
Yep, they
and
got
like just like those two guys, like they're now making their comments, but like their presence at any show you go to is just like it's just like seeing the sun almost.
no, no,
Right? So
totally,
bright,
totally.
it lightens up the room and everything. Like they're the best.
No,
So
there was a lot of great people who showed up. We sat as we where we always sit,
mhm,
across from Howard and Walter and Wheezy. Behind me, I roped in. I was able to get Paul Pope to come to the show. So
right.
he did signings. He was behind us. And across from me, where I was sitting, was Patrick Oliff, who
Oh, I
I
know
have
Pat.
never physically met,
He's a Pittsburgh
but
guy.
yeah, and early on, he drew an incredible verdict cover
That's right.
for
That's right.
Caliber Presents, and I've always loved his stuff, and it was finally cool. It was great to finally meet him. Um, and listen, my mind goes blank. Like there's so many people you see and hanging out with, and the Ringo Awards, and
Yeah.
getting dinner Thursday night with Chaikin and company. And there's Don Simpson, and I had Dan Goldman with me, we had him on the last two podcasts. I think it was a game-changing week and a half or 2 weeks for Dan in some ways.
Mhm.
One of the things I was talking to him about is like because he's so isolated in so many
Yeah.
ways, and I was like, it's all about community, man. It's all about being around other creators and readers and fans, and so I think he was able to successfully promote and sell some books, but also more importantly be around the people, you know
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so
I mean,
that was
he's doing the
cool.
work.
He's
That's
doing the
part,
work,
but that's part of the job. It's not the entire
right?
thing. Like it's he has this kind of beautiful presentation that like we've shown it on the show. Like the hardcover version of Red Light Properties is just an amazing feat like of an achievement.
Yep,
And
yep,
it deserves more eyes on it.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
not just through here, but at shows. I don't know how many shows Dan does. I feel like he doesn't do many, but like
right.
New York Comic Con one weekend, then Baltimore the next weekend. Hopefully that kind of spurns him to do more shows and like get it more out there.
Right, and get out of Florida. Like he
Yeah,
said, they're thinking about, do we actually come back to Brooklyn? And I was like, it's expensive. I don't know if right now is the right time to try to get into Brooklyn, but be in big cities where there are these communities. And he has a little one he told me about in
mhm.
Florida, so but yeah, but that, and then like having access to like Mark Nathan, who is the spirit and the engineer, basically of Baltimore Comic Con, and
And a retailer of his own. Like he
exactly, he's a
owns
retailer,
a couple stores.
and of course Brad Tree, Randy Tisher, the whole Baltimore Comic Con, get Shelly Nathan, like, and be able to sit with Mark, and he tells me this story that I won't repeat here, but like had us both crying,
Mhm.
like in the middle of the bar, cafeteria that we're all hanging out at,
Mhm.
and Dan Goldman walked in on it, and he was like, "Oh my God, what's happening?" Kind of thing, and he heard what I was hearing and what Mark was telling me, this story about Charles Schultz that's
Mhm.
just heartbreaking. Um, and yeah, I don't know. You get to have those moments, and I don't take it for granted. Seeing Jeff Smith, who should be dead, he was telling me I died.
Mhm.
The guy who created Bone, who we were celebrating in the yearbook this year.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know, man. It was just so much fun, and again, hanging out with all these folks, and I could name 100 names, and
Mhm.
it is the best show. You got to be there next year,
I
you
plan
know.
on it. Like the other um the show that I see Wade at usually, so I didn't get to see him.
Right. I saw Wade.
Becky Cloonan, is another one who I never see all the
I
time.
hung out with Becky. Yep.
Like these are people that are like my people, like
Hmm.
just like,
Hmm.
and as much as people tell you like, oh, your presence is missed, and oh, um, you still feel like, like when it's happening, you feel so like not lost, but you just feel smaller. You know what I mean? Like you just feel like, like they're really not really thinking about me. They're not really, nobody really misses, the person that's not there. That, for whatever reason, like maybe it's more like I'm not worthy of somebody missing me or whatever, so
That's
that's why.
that's the Eeyore coming, the
Oh
Eeyore
yeah,
inside of you.
absolutely. But I mean,
But I'll
that's
say
kind of why.
this: you a lot of people asked about you, and
That's
I was like, I didn't know who they were talking about. Vito, who, but no, a lot of people asked about you, man. Are
yeah.
you kidding me? Come on
Yeah,
now.
that's why I kind of fell into the movie hole, that I fell into, just because I was like, it was just something I could just kind of, and I finished a script last week for
Sweet.
Hellhounds, which is Stray and two other dog themed creator-owned properties, like a team up book, which was a lot of fun writing it. Now,
Right.
hopefully that's going to be for next year as well, like gets added to the list of 5 or 6 things that I'm planning, so.
It's insane how many characters you're creating, and then you kind of get your little copyright, like you're on a character design, a name,
Uh,
and you're just putting it out there.
yeah,
Like me and Charlie were joking, like there's no way you could ever write all the characters you're creating.
and I realize I can't remember if I said this last week or if I was thinking it, but like I realized I was saying it to Matt Major actually. I realized that that'll never happen, and what I'm doing is, and I said this is how I explained it to Matt. I'm trying to populate a world that has to have these characters in it to make the world feel bigger, like to make it feel like it's lived in, sort of.
Right.
And then
Right.
the day after I said that to Matt, I was like, I think I'm going to do an anthology, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just short stories with all these new
Why
characters
not?
coming up with,
Why not?
just
You know?
so they can propel a plot forward or just explain why they exist, basically, like justify their existence, for like 80 pages or 40 pages or whatever. I think I
Right.
have like five. I have five of the stories figured out, and I'm still trying to determine if I want to do 80 or if I want to do just 40 just to get it done faster.
I think you can do it faster. And I'll tell you this, I was talking about constraints recently
Mhm.
and how they're important. And in my antimatter, which by the way is $210 away from funding its
I was going
initial
to bring
goal.
that up. 216 backers currently as well.
Right. Right. And like soon, and then hopefully get more, obviously.
Mhm.
But uh uh oh, so I decided I think it's gonna be 40 or 44 pages. I'm not exactly sure.
Mhm.
And I have to draw 22 more pages of the lead story. But then I know that I promised to have a Billy Dogma story in there and Chest Face as well, plus AI Joe and the Red Hook, of course. And I was like, but wait, I only have 2 or maybe 4 pages if and the constraint of the page count to do Billy Dogma and or Jane Legit. And actually, I found a way to do that. They are both in the same story, you
Hmm.
know. So, and I think it might be 4 pages just to get it in there. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? To have that presence in the book. And otherwise, I never would have written this story because I would just do a chest face or Billy Dom Jane. But because I was like, how do I shove them in here,
Right.
make something that's fun, where we have them both in the same story? I had to invent that idea, of course, right? And just thinking about it, and then I came up with something. I'm still tooling around, but like sometimes that's what forces these stories to happen, you know?
I just had the weirdest, dumbest idea for you, in that, like, say you couldn't get it works best with chest face, but like, say you couldn't get a chest face story in this, you do
Right?
the Sergio Aragonis and you just put him in
I'm running around the borders.
running around the borders doing something goofy, like being chased or whatever.
That's
I mean,
hilarious.
it's just a way to get him in there, even though it's not a story. But then again,
Right,
the thing about those, like, that people don't get, with in the Mad magazines, Sergio Aragonis used to draw just like a guy painting,
right,
and like just some mishaps would happen, and they were literally like in the corner where the numbers were, of the pages, and like
right,
they do tell a story,
right.
they don't tell a story with like, dialogue or anything like that. You just kind of have to just, fall in love with the artwork and just read the story as as it's presented.
And it was always fun to watch that. And maybe, and actually, I did do, I think, a version of that, or I was inspired by that by a Billy Dogma comic years ago,
Really.
where I had these strips, Billy Dogma strips, but underneath it, I had this other visual narrative
Mhm.
of like them running and chasing each other and stuff like that.
Oh,
And I
that's
think that
great.
was in an old comic. But it's funny. I mean, because part of our show is about sharing our creativity.
Hmm.
And some things I want you to read and like not talk about it too much, the process of. But if I may, give me 1 minute and I can
Yeah.
tell you what I was thinking about. So I was like, well, how would Chessface lives, I think in Summit City, which is part of Zion
Yeah.
Studios' worlds, you know.
Mhm.
So that's the technically where he lives. But when you're a comedian, a stand-up comedian, you go on tour.
Right.
So I went, oh, he could go to Trip City if he could stumble upon Trip City, right?
Mhm.
And there's a bar called Lucy's, and it might have a stage in the back where he could do comedy. Okay, I'm trying to put it together.
Mhm.
And then I kept thinking, well, Chessface is kind of an analog of the Thing, for the Fantastic Four for me in
Right.
some ways, right? And Arnim Zola and all that stuff, but whatever, he's this rocky character. And I thought, well, one of my favorite splash pages ever is the Thing holding up a building from collapsing, a splash page in
Mhm.
Fantastic Four,
Mhm.
where you just see his back is into it, kind of a thing, right? And I believe I used that in a Wood God story that I did for Marvel, a 4 pager. And speaking of epic, that was an epic
Yeah.
4 pager. So I was like, well, let me play with that idea. Like maybe he had to like help save a building from falling over in Trip City, but how am I going to show that? And I thought, oh no, I know what I do. I'll have Billy and Jane making love while also arguing on a bed. That's how you start.
Mhm.
And then the next panel, they start to slide, right, on the bed, and they're going up the side of the wall, right? Because they think that's just the power of their making love and the heated argument. But really, what it is the building is tilting, it's falling over. So that's the first page. You
Ah.
turn the page, you get a double page spread, right?
Mhm.
And you have Chest Face is literally holding it up from collapsing, right? And then Billy and Jane look out the window. They realize, oh my God, our building almost for whatever reason it was, and this guy is saving us. But everyone's freaking out. The other tenants are like nervous and afraid, and they don't want to die, and they're
Mhm.
hoping this guy can save up. So he calms them down by workshopping some of his jokes while holding up this building. Like that's where my head went. Like,
Ah.
and then maybe it ends with them at the nightclub and they're hearing jokes. I'm not sure exactly how it ends, but
Ah.
I was like, that's how it begins, right?
That's a good 4-page setup. Like, that's a good, like, one, two,
Yeah, man.
like, one act, two act, like
And
three
playing
act.
with space, the
Hmm.
way I do, and I don't know. I just thought again, I'll figure out where it goes, and it'll probably be what were they arguing about? That'll be the punchline or something,
Hmm.
like and to keep it short and sweet. But also you get some chest face, you get Billy and Jane, they're in the same world together, and have that fun with it. So there you go. That's what I'm one of the things I'm working on.
Speaking on speaking of like kind of like the inside baseball side of what we do, I want to show you something that I came across today. Hopefully this will work. Um,
There's a share button
yeah, yeah. I'm just trying to find which one. There we go. Okay. So do you see this picture on the screen right now?
on a second. Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay,
That's
so
John Buscema, right?
right. So let me this is a Reddit post on the subreddit comic book art, and it says one of the most significant drawings of the 20th century. And then the caption underneath says, "From How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, 1978, presumably by John Buscema, though I believe some other artists contributed. For me, this is the money page, an entire philosophy and approach to comic art in a single image. A statement of intent that, when translated to film, would make a gazillion dollars." I don't know how I could, parse that. But can you explain this to me? Because if you look at it on the right side, or on the left side of the page, it says best. Then it says not bad. Then there's like these three middle images that say weak. Then it's not bad, best.
So you know what it is? It's before and after.
Right. So
So
this,
so what he's done is that he's saying the bests are right before you make contact and after you make contact. And also he's also showing, sweeping gestural drawings,
mhm.
but like it's the power of pulling all the way back and then punching all the way forward, right?
I feel
And there are
like
many ways to do that.
I feel like what this is basically explaining is one of the things we've always been told as writers is that you're not writing animation. These things aren't moving
Right,
as you're writing. And so what this to me represents is the cause and effect, like
right,
like you were saying before and after.
right.
And you can't show this entire movement, although there are ways to do that, as well. But
Sure.
this just to me, like I was looking at it and just going, this is like I couldn't wrap my head around why those three in the middle were weak. Do you know what I mean? Like as a writer,
Oh, I totally can. I see exactly, and I could. I mean, I grew up as well on how to draw comics the Marvel way, which is and I've given this as a gift many, many times.
hmm,
If people are going to give, um, is it called creating comics? What's the understanding comics?
hmm, Scott,
Uh, by Scott McCloud. That's become like a perennial teaching tool for comics. If this has got to also be right
hmm,
next to it, you
hmm.
know. Um, and also the thing I would also give, I've given as well many times, is David Mamet's On Directing Film for Writers.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you have you ever read that,
No,
Vito?
this is the first I've ever heard of it. So
Oh my God,
look
it's
into
like
it.
110 pages long. It's you can read it in an hour or two, and basically it was derived from when he was teaching on film directing in a class. But really, what it is a master class on storytelling and what you put in and what you keep and what you take away, kind of a
Hmm.
thing,
Yeah,
and how to cut to the chase on certain things. I mean, it's very formal, so take it with a grain of salt,
I
kind of
found
thing.
I found I think it was William Goldman's uh,
Oh,
story. Is that
well,
oh no,
he
Robert McKee. Robert
oh
McKee.
yeah, Rob McKee's story, which I have, I've never read.
It's a hard read because it's so academic, and like when you're coming from it, like
Right,
post, like going to school and post being in an academic setting, it's hard to read casually,
right.
So I've always had problems with that one. William Goldman was always easy for it was the Robert McKee one.
William, and another one that I would like to suggest, and I haven't read the whole thing. I'm looking for it right now, and I'm sure you have read this book. And if not, it's also somewhat. Oh, Blake Snyder did a book called Save the Cat, the last book on screenwriting you'll ever need.
Yeah, I remember that book.
And there's a really interesting lesson he teaches, and I'll try to impart it really quickly, where he talks about you can have a guy drive a car up to a church, go to the back trunk, pull out an AK-47 or whatever, walk into the church slowly. There's 12 nuns in there, and he blows away 12 nuns.
Mhm.
And that's all shocking and it's horrific. but that's not how you do it. What you do is this: you start with a guy driving his car down the road, and he sees a cat up in a tree, and he goes over, he gets out of the car, and he quote saves the cat that's
Mhm.
up in a tree, right? And the cat purrs and then runs along. He gets back in his car, and then everything I described earlier. He pulls up to a church. He
Right.
gets an AK-47 out, and he goes and he murders 12 young. Now it's still fucked up,
Mhm.
but now you want to know why.
Right.
like, like you didn't really want to know. You'd be like, "Fuck this guy," I don't care about him. But
It,
now he did something nice.
it's like
Why?
in
Now
the
maybe there's a reason, and maybe there's a good reason for
it's
what
like in
he's
the
done.
professional where Jean Reno's character is always drinking milk. It's like,
Right.
but he's an assassin for hire. Like, why would an assassin drink milk? Why doesn't he drink something sexy like whiskey or bourbon or something like that? But like he's drinking.
Richard Price is famous for adding little character quirks.
Mhm.
He's one of the best writers ever. And I think what was the movie where Samuel L. Jackson, God, it might have been Kiss of Death or something when he did a remake. But Samuel L. Jackson is like this very upset, angry cop.
Mhm.
Um, and he's just pissed off at everyone. But he got shot in the face, but it's just a little scar under his eye, but it's where his sinuses are and his tear duct.
Mhm.
So he's crying all the time,
Oh boy,
but he's not crying emotionally.
it's
He
because of
just, it's an optic of him. He's always dabbing these tears as
Mhm.
he's just pissed off, which is such a great little visual and like additional character piece,
I'm a big fan of idiosyncrasies in characters.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
one of the fun things about like, you guys make fun of me making characters all the time, but like that's the fun thing about characters is that somebody can embody some kind of weird quirk, you
Oh,
know.
totally. I'm more concerned about you just
No, no, no.
getting some
I
comics out there. That's
I
all.
meant it in a playful way, not like
Sure, 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 sure.
like I said, like I decided that like kind of, based on your Kickstarter, like just like, oh, what is my one man anthology? Well, it ain't one man.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
many hands, create the whatever the saying
But
goes.
you're it would be your Harvey Pekar,
Yeah,
American
basically.
Splendor.
Yeah.
Except it wouldn't. I mean, he told a variety of stories, of course, with many, many artists. But in your case, maybe you would be. I don't know if all your characters are in the same universe. So is it a universe
Yeah.
of?
Like it's
So they
all
are.
it'd all be in the Stray universe or Strayverse, like we call it.
Well, do you
Um,
recall Marvel Comics #1?
yeah.
And it was a timely comic. It wasn't a
Mhm.
Marvel comic, but eventually they called switched it over to Marvel. But you could do your own Marvel comics,
I mean, like I said, I'm looking at between 40 and 80 pages. I think I might keep it to 40 just to get it out, sooner rather
Totally,
than later. And then,
totally.
like
And
it's
guess
all,
what? I'll give you a hot tip. Every subsequent issue introduce a new character.
yeah.
So you could hold back on characters. And I'm planning on doing that with Antimatter.
Well,
Is like, oh, there'll be some new guys that show up, even if it's just one page.
what's funny is I was like, all right, I have new villains, I have new heroes. Just take the most unlikely combination of hero and villain fighting each other, and then just find the story in that.
Exactly.
One or
Opposing
two of them
ideas.
make sense. Like there's a Golden Age villain that I was like, might as well have him fight the Golden Guard, like and like set it at a certain time period in the canon. Then there's one where there's two characters fighting and one character is observing. So it's basically three character like a three-hander, but like
Right.
I'm just trying to not find out, but find the unlikely pairings there.
Totally. And that's where we get more fun comics,
Mhm.
and fun stories. Um, you said Golden Guard, which reminds me of Golden Age,
Mhm.
which reminds me of Starman, which reminds me of James Robinson,
Mhm.
which reminds me of our collaborating on the Fantastic Four a little bit, and how I hung out with him at Baltimore, and we threatened to work with each other on something.
This year, you said this?
Yeah, we this last weekend
Oh,
we
awesome.
we we were talking about doing something, and I'm gonna throw him some ideas. But I'll tell you again, little behind the scenes. Um, at first we started to kind of talk about like, oh, what we should do something original or creator owned, whatever. And I said, you know what, James? There's so many stories that I'm writing that I want to draw, creator owned stuff that I want to be the writer of. But I said, what always helps is to do a franchise comic, a Marvel, DC, Archie, whatever, like because it puts your name back out
Mhm.
on the front racks, as it were, when you do that once in a while. And I said, I'd rather come up with an idea with a couple of C or B level characters from like DC or Marvel or something, and come up with an idea of like some 4 issue miniseries or graphic novel, get in, get out, do that for a year, and then get back to my business, with the hope that that did well enough that
Mhm.
it would bring optics over to like, well, we like what Dean Haspel drew with James Robinson. What's Dean Haspel doing over here, and then bring him back over to what I'm doing.
I would almost disagree. I would almost, I mean, not that, you can't change your conversation, the
Sure.
conversation's already happened, but I would almost say that the thing that could do the same amount of work that a Marvel and DC comic could do for your profile, that would still involve like creator own stuff is doing an image book. Now, I
But
can't,
that's how it used to, but and that still works, I think.
I do too.
Because you get like, I don't know, give me a Tom King or whoever, right? And then they go do their own, create their own books.
Right.
So that's one way to ping pong. But I think Tom King's doing more franchise comics than he is indie comics.
Yeah, currently, but I think that like James Robinson famously worked at DC, did a couple of things at Marvel. I think he did your Fantastic Four or something like that, or
Yeah, he wrote a run on FF.
yeah.
And then he went on to do some creator own stuff and then got not canceled, but some crap for some, I forget which book it was.
Mhm.
And he even brought it up this weekend because he also got honored at the Ringos,
Hmm.
which was really cool and unexpected. He got very emotional. It was
Hmm.
sweet. If you watch the video of the Ringo Awards, it's a lot of fun. Chip Kidd steals the show, by the way. And then guess what? Our guy, Sean Von Gorman, with writer Joey Esposito, won 2 awards for The Pedestrian. And I'm so proud of those guys because I was such a believer of that series early on.
Mhm.
So big ups to Sean and Joey.
Joey and I took the same lettering class.
Really?
Yeah,
Who was the teacher?
Dave Sharp.
Oh wow. So he let us.
Amy Chu was in it as well. Amy Chu was in our class.
Oh wow.
Joey and I forget. There was one other guy that was in it that did something
Oh, that's cool. How many
relatively,
years ago is that?
probably like 10 at this
Right.
point. I think
Wow.
it was sometime after leaving Hamley's, but before Sadie was born. So yeah, give us.
Right. 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 Right.
But yeah,
Do we have any hot topics, by the way?
we have three. Um,
Oh,
while from so we recorded last episode on the Monday. Usually we record on Thursdays, but we did it on Monday because
right.
uh, Dean and Dan were first of all recovering from New York and then going to Baltimore. So we had a longer span between our last episode and this episode. And in that span, Jesus H. Christ, Diane Keaton dies, D'Angelo dies, and Ace Frehley died, amongst other people. But these three just seem to be the most relevant to our show, because we talk about soul music all the time,
Yep.
talk about the 70s all the time, and we
Yep.
talk about Woody Allen every now and again,
Right.
not as
Right.
much as Jack Kirby, but we definitely talk about Woody Allen. Um,
Right.
and it's weird because like the other thing we were going to talk about was this list that Quentin Tarantino made, and on the list is Annie Hall.
Right.
And I think about Diane Keaton almost immediately. And if you remember, I wrote about Annie Hall for Trip City many, many moons ago.
Oh, right. Right.
So I'm, I
Well,
think,
D'Angelo, for me, I thought he had died. I thought he had died young, and he did die young at 51.
yeah.
But I actually thought he had already passed away because I had heard that he was sick. And
Mm,
so, but even so, I was like, Jesus, he only did 3 albums. I think Jimi Hendrix only did 3 albums. I think a lot of our favorite artists, who die young, only did a few albums, but they're brilliant albums. and they did a lot of live music, and there was so many tributes online, and just to continue to hear his voice, it was incredible. I obviously love Diane Keaton. I don't think I've seen Annie Hall. Is do I go to jail
Really?
now? Do I get arrested
You're
for
a New
that?
Yorker. That's a pretty big indictment for a New Yorker.
I know
Um,
it's sad. I
What
have to watch that,
what
but I
Woody
love
Allen movies have
terms.
you seen?
Oh, I've seen a bunch. I've seen a
Okay,
bunch. Take the money and run. You know what my favorite one? And not having seen all of them, but Husbands and Wives is brutal.
it's a
That is a brutal
there's a
movie.
movie called Interiors that he did
Right,
that was between Annie Hall and Manhattan,
right.
and um that
Excuse
bless you. That
me.
movie, that movie is an Ingmar Bergman through like Long Island type of movie. It is absolutely the craziest movie you've ever. I think Diane Keaton's in that one as well, but like he was
And
her.
I saw some of his later, his more recent stuff. I've seen, obviously, saw a lot of his classics. I mean, the guy is funny, man. There was a scene in a movie where Woody Allen is talking to a beautiful woman. I want to say in an art gallery, and she comes off as clearly insane, and he just loves her anyway. He'll just do anything. Like it's a very funny. I forget what the movie was in the scene, but I mean, obviously, and he made one movie a year for so many years.
Yeah.
Incredible. And then you said Ace Frehley. So it's funny. Like I'm not the biggest Kiss fan. Whatever, they're fine, but obviously they look cool. But I think Ace Frehley was the one that I wanted to look like if I had to look like one of them.
Oh man, Ace Frehley. He was the Star Child. No, he wasn't Star Child. He was Space Ace. Star
Space
Child was
Ace.
Paul. The cat would be Peter Criss, and then the demon would be Gene Simmons.
Yeah.
I had those four action figures, the Mego figures that were
Right.
bigger than normal, and my uncle, who just became born again at that point,
Right.
broke them in front of me
Why?
because they
Oh,
were.
because it was like evil or oh my God.
And do you know how
Vito,
much those?
that's the beginning of a comic book, man. Like, oh my
You know how
God.
much those
That's
figures are worth these days?
oh, I'm sure. I'm
Like,
sure.
where's my Samuel L. Jackson napkin to put right by my eye?
So my best friend Mike Houston told me this incredible story that like had me on the floor dying laughing, even though it was one of the most racist things I ever heard. And I put it in my play, in one of my plays, The Last Part of the End of the World. Basically, uh, his mom had gotten him a Falcon Migo toy, right? Because he figured, oh, he didn't have a black father. He might as well have a black superhero in his life or something,
Mhm.
whatever. And uh, back then, and he had the disco kind of,
Yeah,
outfit,
the short this
right?
vest type thing. Yeah.
And he wore gloves. And Mike said that he took off the gloves to check out whatever was underneath, and he had Planet of the Apes hands. Oh,
Oof.
because Planet of the Ape hands is the same as brown black people hands, right? What's the diff?
Oh,
Is
Migo.
that messed up? So messed up, man. And I don't
Oh,
know how many that happened to if that was a whole run of Falcons or not, but that was incredible to me.
oh
Like,
boy.
geez, it's horrific. All right, and then Tarantino, or is there, or and then we'll do a little verses.
Yeah, let's do the Tarantino. So Tarantino has stated his seven perfect movies, and
Right.
the seven movies are The Wild Bunch, which is a Western by, I believe, Sam Peckinpah, right?
Yes.
The Exorcist is the other one.
Yes.
Another one is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one, obviously. Toby Hooper, I believe, was the director of
Yep.
that one.
Yep.
Young Frankenstein by Mel Brooks.
Mel
I almost
Brooks.
called him Al Brooks because Albert Brooks is somebody else. Jaws by Steven Spielberg. Annie Hall, which we just mentioned, and Back to the Future. Um, I have said on this podcast that there are three perfect movies, and the three perfect movies are Back to the Future. So I agree with him on that one. Ghostbusters, which I think is just tightly written, plot is solid, acted well, and like it's just amazingly works well as kind of like a hybrid horror, but it's not really horror, but like the conventions of a horror movie and comedy, just all works. And Raiders of the Lost Ark, the
I
first.
mean, you can't listen, everything you've just listed between you and Tarantino, yeah, I can't argue that at all. You
Yeah,
can't argue that. And to the point, I can only just contribute, more. You know, like you said, Jaws, a perfect movie.
yeah.
What were the other
Exorcist, which I know you're a fan of, Texas
fantastic,
Chainsaw Massacre. Here's why I don't.
fantastic. Yeah,
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I didn't see at a developmental age. Like I saw it as an adult. Like
right,
if I would have seen it as a teenager, maybe even younger, I
right.
might have the reverence that a lot of people have for it. But I watched it and I laughed the entire time. I thought it was the goofiest movie ever. And I think
So,
that happens when you're an adult. You've seen enough of the, quote unquote horrors of the world that now
right.
a guy with a flesh mask chasing people with a chainsaw doesn't really
So
do anything for you.
I'm 50-50 with you on. I'll say why, because when I had heard so much legend of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which has the best title,
Mhm.
like how could you need to see that, right? Um, and then when I finally saw it, I went, wasn't that scary? It's a little goofy, like what, like, but then it stayed with me, and I
Mhm.
realized I was haunted by the concept of not just a guy wielding a chainsaw, but the family of sickos, you know, and like seeing like, I mean, I think if I'm correct, I think Leatherface represents like a trans person in some ways.
Yeah, in some
He has,
ways.
he has three different personalities. He's the mother, he's the brother, he's the son, like, and he's kind of like, and yet he doesn't really have a language except for like grunts and like crying, and he sounds like a pig
Mhm.
squealing sometimes. And the more I think about that character, the more I'm freaked out by him. And in fact, I think last week or the week before, I was talking about Ed Gein, who
Yeah,
spawned not only Psycho but the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a character in oh, what's his name, Harris's Silence of the Lambs, and
Hannibal
then John
Lecter.
Hannibal Lecter. No, no,
Oh
no.
no, no,
But
Buffalo
Buffalo
Bill.
Bill.
Mhm.
Buffalo Bill
Mhm.
is inspired by Ed Gein and Silence of the Lambs. Um, and he's the gift that keeps on giving, Ed Gein. But anyway, going back to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it's done documentary style, and it's a low budget,
Mhm.
and you could practically smell the movie, and like it just it's intense the more
Yeah,
you watch it,
seeing it on DVD in your living room is not the same as seeing it in a movie theater when it came
Right,
out. Like I can,
right.
I can totally cop to that.
And
Um,
there's so many moments that are just kind of incredible. But like, yeah, it's low budget. It comes with such a legend
mhm.
that it's hard to meet that. But if you give it time, and you kind of, I'm not asking you to study the movie, but if you
Oh
were to
no,
study it, you'd be like, yo, this is incredible from beginning to end.
yeah.
But I'm trying to think of what I had, and I could like add a couple.
I would add.
Uh, Go ahead.
We were talking about Universal movies before. I would add Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
I think
And
it's
next,
better than Frankenstein. You
it is
know,
better, and also Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is a good kind of double bill with Bride. Um, I would like to add On the Waterfront,
okay,
Eli Kazan, Marlon Brando. I'd like to add Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West.
that's the Western I would add. Yeah,
Yep. I hate to say it, but John Carpenter has two on my top, which is Halloween and The Thing.
yeah.
I'm surprised. Did Tarantino not say Taxi Driver?
He didn't.
That is the Sistine Chapel of cinema.
See, again, and I think I've mentioned it on the show before as well. Like, I don't have the reverence for Taxi Driver that a lot of my peers or
Hmm.
contemporaries do. And again, it's because I saw it so much later in life than most people did. A lot of people saw
Right,
it in their teens. I'm a big fan of Bill Hader, and Bill Hader will talk about that movie at
right,
length, to like its perfection and to like the camera angles and like there's the scene where he's on the phone, De Niro's Travis Bickle's on the phone with Sybil Shepherd's character, and he has the camera start on De Niro on the phone It's like a payphone in a hallway, and then like he pans away, and then like we're watching an empty hallway with people walking by outside in the far background. So like De Niro's right here in the near foreground off camera, and you can hear him talking and like kind of like being kind of pathetic and like trying to apologize and stuff. And he like the way Hader describes it is that it's such an uncomfortable thing to watch this happen that you
Right.
have to pan away. And
Right.
like, oh yeah, I get that. That
Right.
movie does nothing for me though, like in terms of like storytelling or and like I don't know, maybe there's something wrong with me, but again, I would cop to the fact that I saw it so much later in life. I think
Sure.
I think King of Comedy is a better Scorsese movie, and it's not even my favorite Scorsese movie.
It's funny. I don't know what my favorite Scorsese movie. I mean, I do think King Comedy is great. Um, Taxi Driver just kind of, you know how they're like, there's certain comic books that like that's where you get that kind of drawing from, or
Yeah,
that's where
yeah.
you get that idea from. Taxi Driver, I think, spawned a lot of stuff that's normal in our cinema today. It was because of Taxi Driver.
Oh my God,
You
you
know?
could watch that Joker movie from a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
and it's just Taxi Driver with a Joker.
Well, it's Taxi Driver meets the King of Comedy,
Yeah, yeah.
basically. So, but even so, so much stuff was spawned from that movie in terms of ideas and cinema and you know that kind of a character.
Mhm.
That internal character that is waiting to explode. Kind of a thing.
Right.
Um, and I just want to add a couple more others. Um, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? I think I mentioned earlier. Dude,
Fantastic.
the best movie that might have ever, well, okay, maybe not the best, but I think a perfect movie might be The Wizard of Oz,
I would agree.
you
I would
know?
agree with that.
And of course, we're not even mentioning, we're talking Deer Hunter, Blood Simple, Raging Bull, Apocalypse Now, Magnolia, Boogie Nights, Sid and Nancy. I think Maniac is an incredible film. Uh, There's a great movie called Unfaithfully Yours, 3 Days of the Condor, The Poseidon Adventure,
Oh,
Network, Planet of the Apes, Touch of Evil, Session 9.
I'm glad you
Um,
said Touch of Evil and not Citizen Kane because I think Touch of Evil is a much better Orson Welles movie.
it was 10 years, I think, after he did Citizen Kane, and it was a B movie.
Yeah,
Like somehow
Charlton
this
Charlton
genius
Heston plays a Mexican.
plays a Mexican, and it's an incredible movie. It's so good. And it has a famous opening shot that lasted like 8 minutes long or something,
Mhm.
and it covers so much terrain. It's incredible.
Yeah,
So I don't know. We could talk all day long about perfect films, great movies. There's so many of them. That's what's so cool about it.
see what's funny is that like I think that I mean other than it being subjective, obviously, I think that there are very few Venn diagram overlaps. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
if I did my seven, like I said, I had Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, Raiders, and Bride of Frankenstein. So far, there's three other ones. I would probably, throw in King of Comedy, um, probably uh, trying to think of like my favorite Spielberg movie, probably Jaws. Um, Another movie that I saw much later in life than I should have. Like if I saw it
Really?
when I was a kid, I was afraid of it because I heard about it.
Or I heard
I
about it.
mean, like
Right.
I was like afraid of the toilet because
Right.
of
Right.
Jaws,
Right. Because
which
there's
makes
water in
no
it.
sense,
Right. I
like,
love that. I mean,
but
I'm surprised that Tarantino didn't mention Blow Up because he loves De Palma's Blow Up
yeah,
so
yeah, that's
much.
a good call.
But I would also, and I know it's considered, racist and problematic, but De Palma's Scarface with Al Pacino
I don't,
is,
like I don't have the reverence for that movie. I mean, I do.
it's like a grindhouse movie. Watch it again, and
Yeah,
it's like this expensive grindhouse film.
I sit and that's another movie that I watch and I just laugh, like
Yeah.
because it's overkill. Like
Yes.
it's just like there's
Yes.
just this level of absurdity to the movie that there's no real person would be this way. You know
At
what I
all,
mean?
or talk to. I mean, like, and it was so. It was what do you call it? Not poached, but so much of it was in so much of our hip hop.
Mhm, mhm.
You
Something
know,
Like Hot. That's another one I would add to mine.
Something Like a Hot. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great one.
Like I mean, I could probably throw a stick and hit a good Billy Wilder movie that is
Oh,
perfect.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
um, but like, my favorite movies are Almost Famous, um, That Thing You Do, the Errol Flynn Robin Hood from 1934, five, something like that.
Nice.
But these are nostalgic. Duck Soup is possibly one of the greatest movies ever. That's definitely
Is
on.
that Laurel and Hardy?
That is the Marx Brothers, my friend.
The Marx Brothers, right? That's right. Because
Yeah,
me and Jen have been watching Laurel and Hardy shorts.
so good.
It's incredible.
You know what I've rediscovered too is Abbott and Costello. Like
Oh, cheese. Come
just
on.
like their TV show, like and like some of their later like earlier movies, but and not so much the Abbott and Costello meets movies. Those are good,
Sure.
but like there's something to be said for like their routines, like
Yep.
on First, or possibly my favorite routine of all time is Susquehanna Hat Company, which you can find on YouTube. It's amazing.
Oh,
Like
cool.
and the thing is, like when you watch it or when you search for it, you'll find like five or six different versions of it because it
Right.
changed in certain contexts. Like there is a one where they were getting ready to, you know, and it's all it is it's a bit, it's a comedy vaudeville bit that they just put into movies in different spots in different movies, and it's every single time you watch it, it's like a different one, but it's still funny. Like
Yep.
just like Who's on First was in like I think two different movies, and then like on their TV show as well.
Yep. I would also add Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Sting.
Yeah,
Almost anything William Goldman wrote was
yeah, that's a good bet.
so. All right, awesome. And no comics hot topics, I don't think.
I hope not.
I
Anytime,
hope not.
you know what I mean? Like anytime there's a comics hot topic, it's usually like somebody was found with child porn.
Well, I know, but let me ask you this. And I didn't go beyond the headline. Do you hear something called blind bags?
I know what a blind bag is.
That publishers are leaning into doing blind bag. Can you explain a blind bag to me?
Well, basically, a blind bag is typically, at least in the early 80s, late 70s, I think on the newsstand, Playboy and Penthouse would start putting their magazines in bags so that people couldn't peruse them on the shelves.
Right.
And like they would black it out so that way you couldn't see if there was something untoward on the cover, like a boob or something like that. Like
Which is what Chaikin did with Black Kiss #1, I
yes,
think came out in a
yes.
blind bag. Got it. Okay. Okay.
So they've now taken it to I can't say that this is the first because I think Chaikin probably would have beaten it by a year or so. But
Sure.
the Death of Superman famously came in a blind bag with
Oh, interesting.
Superman logo with blood kind of dripping
Sure, sure.
on it, and then
So you couldn't flip through it and find out what happened or whatever,
right.
right?
And this was pre-internet, so there was no like spoilers, to
Right,
worry about. But like, yeah, this was a thing that they would do. So
right, right.
um, I can't. I think it was the first Fraction Batman that just came out 2 months ago that it started to be a thing, and like retailers were opening them up and then putting those. I don't know why. Like I'm out of the retail game, so I
Right.
don't know exactly why they would ruin a comic like that. And then you give spoilers, on the internet stuff.
I
So,
mean, everyone knows that within 5 minutes of the day of, if
hmm,
it's out there, I'm
right.
sure. So it's like, what is the selling advantage at that point? Like it's
Oh,
just
and
weird.
I can tell you what the selling advantage is. It's basically the variant principle, which is if you put a popular or hot artist on a cover, and you have like your regular cover, then you have like a virgin cover, then you have like a foil cover, the collector will try to buy more than one. But I don't think we're in that market anymore. I think that market's long gone.
You're reminding me of baseball cards. When I would buy a pack of baseball cards, I didn't know what I was getting, and
Right.
I would get repeats. I was hoping for Reggie Jackson, that kind of a thing, and
Mm.
so you kept buying and buying and buying, but that's not the same with comic books unless you're offering like 20 different covers.
Which they've done. Um,
But in a blind bag situation versus like which one do you want? It's right here. And hopefully the retailer ordered well enough or something,
And the other part
So
of it too is that, like, if you're a collector, you're going to buy one and then buy at least another one in a blind bag so that you can
right,
open it and actually read it. But
right,
I
right.
think the biggest mistake here is that someone's trying to reignite the speculator market, and I think it's
Yeah,
a mistake. I think it's just
yeah.
like, let's just read comics, man.
Agreed,
Doesn't have to be this difficult.
agreed. All right, so I guess we're good on that.
Oh,
Yes.
by the time this comes out, which will be Monday, tomorrow is election day, everyone. Go vote. Please go vote.
Oh, right. That's right.
At least
Okay.
let me look at the calendar. I'm pretty sure that I'm correct. I might be off by a week, but if
And
you
also, you've been uploading one episode at a time of our podcast
yeah,
on the audio platforms like Spotify and whatnot.
I'm off by a week, but
Oh,
make
okay.
sure you know where your polling place is a week in advance, because a week
Yeah.
from tomorrow will be election day, and everybody needs to go out and vote.
Yep. Agreed.
Very important. They're all important, but these are very important elections, especially in New York. You got a new mayor to pick.
Well, and yes. And our current mayor,
What
what
a
a character.
what a
What?
clown.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not good. Okay.
Let's do it.
Well, we're gonna do
It's what everybody's been waiting for. We got 30 minutes.
right. So we're continuing creators comic creator versus where we match up two creators. We're now in a phase of writers right now, and then we'll get back to artists. And this doesn't mean one is better than the other, but if you had to choose one, and we talk about the comics that impacted us and what we like about their work.
Yes.
Uh, Here we go. Warren Ellis
Oh,
versus Peter Milligan.
ooh, interesting.
Does that sound right?
That sounds right.
That sounds right.
They seem to be they're contemporaries, I believe. I would
They're
say.
definitely contemporaries, and they both definitely bring weird, offbeat comics. I would say, like, I'm trying to make comics you didn't know you wanted. They make comics I didn't know I wanted.
I think Milligan might be the quote unquote weirder of the two. Like, I think the risks he takes, like, he takes big swings, man. Where
Yeah, less commercial takes, let's
I
call
think,
it,
but
right?
I think Warren, when he takes the big swing, he knows exactly where his. This is all baseball metaphors, excuse me, but we're comic guys, and I'm talking baseball. Warren knows exactly his strike zone, and Warren will, like, he knows exactly the pitch he's looking for, and he will swing that for that pitch. Whereas I think Milligan is like, I might take that curveball. I'm gonna see. You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
like,
right.
and I think Warren's hits, stuff like Authority, stuff like Transmit, stuff like oh God, why can't I think Next Wave? Like, these
But
are,
you haven't even mentioned the one that actually catapults him to the stars,
which one's that?
Planetary
Planetary, yeah,
with John Cassaday.
yeah. Like,
I mean, come on.
and the thing is, I'm thinking of some of his less commercial ones, like Anna Mercury. There's, oh God,
Desolation Jones,
Desolation Jones.
Fell. He did, what was the one? He did like something global, something was like 12
Global Frequency.
issues. Global Frequency was
That's
great.
that's a great one too. That's very underrated. I think they made that into a TV show, or at least a
I
pilot.
think they did, or
And
something, yeah.
like, so underrated. But Warren's just got a knack for, I think, voices, and I think when he
Yeah,
gets the guy's voice, um, it's when it hits. Like when Spider Jerusalem, like when you see him, you don't think much until you start getting his voice, like, and you start
yeah,
getting like his philosophy and his attitude and stuff.
right, right.
My issue with Warren sometimes is that voice sometimes carries over from one project to the next. For example, Elijah Snow from
Right.
Planetary, the older guy in white,
Yep.
has the same exact voice as Ray Palmer, the Atom, in an episode of Justice League Unlimited that Warren wrote.
Oh,
Like,
interesting.
same exact pattern. Like,
Sure.
it's so. I find, like, sometimes there are moments when Warren has that character, and then it just becomes that character.
Well, if I may, just one,
Yeah.
I think the thing that I do like about that voice, even if it's carried over between, the Atom or Elijah Snow or whoever, um, it reminds me of why I like a Howard Chaykin.
Mhm.
Howard Chaykin kind of basically writes the characters in the same voice, or definitely draws the hero the same way over and over again. To David Mamet's stylized way of, so it's partially stylized,
Oh yeah.
and I enjoy that voice when I see it. But you're right, is it always quote appropriate? Maybe not, but I'm very forgiving in that way, you
I mean,
know.
I don't think it's anything that needs to be forgiven. I think, writers, we all have our thing, like
Right.
it's not a crutch because you're not leaning on it too much. It's just a part of you. You
Yeah.
with Milligan, like I said, I think his swings are so much bigger and so like they're like
Well, like
I don't know that they hit every single
not
time.
X Factor, X Force.
X
Sorry,
Force, yes, with Duke.
with Mike Allred.
Mhm.
You know, and he's done these great little miniseries for Vertigo.
Shade the Changing
Uh,
Man, I think he did.
right, and when he's taken on franchise characters, well, like X Force, Shade the Changing Man. Um, he's just such a intelligent writer, as is Warren Ellis.
Yeah.
And at first, it was like it was really difficult for me to figure out, well, which one, if I had to punt one over the other. But because Warren Ellis has Planetary and also I've loved reading his novels like Crooked Little Vein. You ever read that?
I didn't read that one. I read the one with the guns. I forget the title of
Oh,
it.
right. Yeah, it was like Gun Machine, I think.
Phenomenal, yes,
Yeah,
phenomenal novel.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I would, I would, I would probably always say Warren anyway. But Warren Ellis wrote one of my favorite and Nick Papora's favorite lines of dialogue, which was in Desolation Jones, where one of the characters says, "Come watch Bukkake with me."
Um,
I never
Flash
laughed
Bukkake.
so hard in my life.
That's hilarious,
So yeah,
man.
I would choose Warren.
All right, ready? This one's gonna hurt you, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, they all do.
They all do.
But this one
Kurt,
might make me die inside.
Kurt Busiek,
Oh, don't say it. I know what you're going to say.
Versus Mark Wade,
Yep. Yeah, that's
right?
yeah,
That's the one.
that is the one. The best way to describe this to anybody who doesn't know who they are, um, both guys started out not as writers at the two biggest companies in comics. Um, I believe Kurt Busiek was in the marketing department at Marvel, and Wade was at first an editor on the Comics Journal or one of those
Amazing Heroes.
Amazing Heroes, thank you, and then got hired as an assistant editor under Brian Augustin at DC, and then Jesus, both guys worked with Alex Ross, and it seemed to like not that it was like their first works, but it seemed to launch them into the stratosphere. And the thing that both of those guys bring to the table is a savant, almost autistic knowledge of the individual brands. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
like
Yep.
I could sit there. I was listening to one of our older episodes. I was talking about the history of the DC universe that Mark Waid has just finished
Right.
um, at DC, or the new history of the DC universe, I think it's called. And what I was remarking about was the back matter of it. And what I said in the other episode when the first issue came out was that if you read Avengers Forever, Kurt Busiek did the same thing. It's like, what are you talking about? That they're both the same guy, like
Yeah.
it's just
Yep.
one's the Marvel guy and one's the DC guy.
Right.
I, my, I could sit here and list titles, but the best thing I ever wrote was in the introduction that Mark Waid wrote for this first trade paperback. That when we redo the printing, will be printed in it because it's a wonderful little piece. Um, Mark Waid, writer of your favorite comic, like he's written it. It doesn't matter what it is. Like
And he's still writing comics
now he's
that are
finally
that
on
great.
Superman.
Right.
Like that was the big thing. Kurt Busiek took over Superman after James Robinson, and then there was one guy in the middle of between them. That would be me.
That's Vito Delsante.
I was
That's
in
right.
between Kurt Busiek and James Robinson on Superman. So
That's fantastic.
look, man, I am intrinsically tied to both guys. I cannot point out the greatest hits of either of these two because they are the greatest hits. They
Yep.
are the guys that when you see their name on a book, that's the book you want to read. I will just give Kurt Busiek one edge, and that is Kurt Busiek took a couple of different swings in the creator-owned arena that Mark. I wouldn't say that. I don't know that you could say that uh, incorruptible, not incorruptible. What is it called?
Not incorrigible.
No.
Well, it's funny what you're about to say. You're about to talk a little bit about their indie work, and I think with Kurt Busiek, it's Astro City,
Yeah,
right?
but it's also
And
Aerosmith with Carlos Pacheco, which is a
right,
reimagining of World War One with magic,
right,
and
and
it's
then
absolutely beautiful.
Mark Waid had more, let's just say, darker versions.
Mhm.
And I think the difference is that Mark Waid's independent stuff leaned more towards cynicism, whereas Busiek's was more irreverent.
Yeah,
If that makes sense. But they both write irreverently as superhero writers,
right.
and they respect the characters so much. Um, and Busiek had Alex Ross draw Marvels. With Mark Waid, it was Kingdom Come with Alex Ross,
Mhm.
and then he had his own. What was it called? Birthright Superman, or was it Birth?
Birthright was with Leno Francis Yu, I believe,
Right. That's Mark Waid's, perennial Superman until recently, where he's doing World's Finest
and then
with Dan
Busiek had
Mora.
Secret Identity with Stuart Immonen.
Right. So again, sight unseen, you just pick up their books.
Mhm.
It's going to be a fun ride. And I got the honor and pleasure of working with Mark Waid on the Fox, where
Yeah.
I wrote the stories and drew the comics, but he wrote the dialogue and just added that extra thing that it needed.
Mhm.
Uh, Dirty Little Secret, the way he wrote Paul Patton Jr., the Fox character that I, basically wrote and drew. The way he wrote the dialogue was in the voice of the Rockford Files, if you ever read it, which is a
Yeah,
lot of fun. So
what's his name? James
James
Garner.
Garner,
Yeah,
James Garner, yeah, yeah. So, but I think it's almost one of those impossible. But if I had to pick one, I might be a little biased, and I'm going to say Mark Waid.
I would be biased as well, but it's not like you're not losing anything by by picking him, and Kurt Busiek's not losing anything by you
Right,
focusing on it. They're both possibly the two biggest influences on my work. Um, James
totally.
Robinson would be another one, funny enough. But
Yep.
yeah, I could not I would not be the writer without them
Right.
without their work.
Right. Right. And I wouldn't be a continuing reader of comics without their work.
That's fair too.
Does that make sense? Like
Yeah,
after a while,
absolutely.
you're supposed to you get too old for comics, right? These guys keep you there,
Mhm.
So, all right, the next round, Roger Stern versus David Michelinie or
Oh boy.
Michelini. Yeah. I remember it was a 6 issue run of Captain America, Roger Stern and John Byrne,
Mhm.
which is perennial. Okay. Roger Stern also wrote Spider-Man, a lot of the Spider-Mans I read.
He wrote Avengers.
With a and what?
He wrote the Avengers, didn't he? With
He wrote the Avengers, I believe.
I'm trying to think.
Um,
Would he have written? I might be wrong, and someone can correct me. I feel like he was writing Avengers with George Perez the first time, and it was their collaboration that almost led to the initial JLA Avengers crossover.
it sounds right, although did Marv Wolfman write Avengers? I don't think so.
No, he
I
was
don't
writing
think
Teen
so.
Titans
Oh, at that
at
time.
that
Okay.
time. Yeah,
All right. Um, I wasn't Roger Stern also the Daredevil writer with Frank Miller before Frank Miller
yes,
took over. He's written all the great Marvel characters. I don't know if Roger Stern wrote a DC comic. You know,
I don't think so.
um, David Michelinie. The one I remember the most is didn't he actually write Drunk Iron Man, Tony
Mhm.
Stark?
I just say
Those
famously the Iron Man run that he did.
famously. Um, And I just feel like I have more memories for Roger Stern comics than I do of David Michelinie, and I'd have to look him up to remember what the other comics were.
Um, Michelini worked a lot with Bob Layton, didn't he?
Probably
Like
on those, yeah.
But like
Um,
Roger Stern seemed to be, the thing about Sterno is that like I feel like he was so reliable. Like if you hired a Roger Stern, you knew exactly what you were getting.
oh,
Like,
you're going to get a good story
yeah,
always.
like I feel like he's in the same vein of as a Steve Englehart in that
Did he
respect.
write The Boy Who Loved Spider-Man?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'm gonna look that up because that's a good question.
Which also inspired my Spider-Man story for the 50th anniversary issue of Spider-Man that I wrote and drew. And I believe, that he wrote that story. Um, you're looking it up?
It's not the boy who loves Spider-Man, the kid who collects Spider-Man,
Oh, right.
and that's absolutely Roger Stern.
And that's the one where, spoiler, does the kid pass away?
I can't remember now.
I remember it being something of a tearjerker, but anyway, uh,
1984. Good God,
I know,
I
man.
would have thought that was so much later.
I know. I know. I know we're not doing a great job of explaining the differences between the writers because they were definitely contemporaries. Um, they
The kid
definitely told
doesn't.
good stories, you
I don't think the
know.
kid dies in the comic. According to this, it says he's got 2 weeks left to live. So maybe he can.
Oh, okay. Off camera,
Yeah,
off panel, he passes away. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm going to say Roger Stern because I have more of a memory. And like I said, that Captain America arc with John
yeah.
Byrne alone was such a great arc, you
Yeah, I
know?
would say Stern based on his Avengers run alone.
Right,
Not to mention the Captain America run that you're talking about. I love
right.
that Captain America run. That run was amazing.
Yep. All right, next up, Ed Brubaker versus Matt Fraction.
Oh, this is a little easier than not
Hmm.
because they're so different. I think
Yes.
I think the Brubaker one should be Greg Rucka
Oh,
because
interesting. Because
they
of
didn't work
their
together,
because
but
of
they
the
had
crime
that
thing.
same. Yeah,
I see Ed Brubaker and Matt Fraction as more contemporary, and I think they even worked on an Iron Fist
they did.
series together.
Yeah,
Um, so maybe I'm wrong, and they are very different. So you do have a point there. Uh,
Fraction is a very. I don't know that this is um, an accurate portrayal, but Fraction, if I'm not mistaken, kind of found his voice on the Warren Ellis uh, message boards
message boards.
from way back when. And so, and like I feel like he's got that same kind of taking big swings at the weird, like
Yeah.
maybe not so much anymore with a lot of his mainstream work. Like his current Batman's fantastic.
Well,
Um,
he did. I haven't read his newest Batman, but he did do an Iron Man run,
did
and I
Hawkeye, which was
remember
great.
I remember picking up the last issue of his run, which I think was like an anniversary issue, and thinking this is great.
Yeah,
I was like, I should go read this. And in fact, I think he wrote one of my favorite bits in Marvel fighting history. I think he wrote Thor, and there's a battle between Thor, Silver Surfer,
yes.
Odin, and Galactus.
Mhm.
And then when Odin and Galactus are fighting each other, they're just staring at each
Yeah.
other. They're fighting each other inside each other's minds.
Mhm.
And you go, "Oh my God, that's brilliant!" Because you're waiting for fisticuffs between Odin and Galactus, and that's not how they fight.
Well,
But guess who does fight like that way? Is
Thor and
Thor
Silver
versus
Surfer.
Silver Surfer. And I think Thor punches Surfer so hard that he lands on another planet.
Mhm.
Like I think he smashes into Mars or something. Like it was such a fun bit,
I
you
think the
know.
Fraction versus is Rick Remender,
Ah, interesting.
and I think Brubaker and Greg Rucka are the two.
So
Um,
we'll rewind and do that next. But and then also Matt Fraction did a collaboration with Howard Chaykin on Satellite Sam.
Such an amazing book. I was so mad when I discovered that book because nobody told me about it.
Right,
Like I came
right.
into it like after, I think when the last 3 or 4 issues were coming in. Like how did nobody talk about? And then somebody had the goal to say, "Oh, I talk about it all the time." I was like, "Man, this is Facebook. This is an echo chamber.
Exactly. Thank
You
you.
got to actually tell me about it."
So, and then just to speak to give Ed Brubaker props. I mean, I've known Ed forever.
Yeah,
Okay, and I don't know him as much nowadays. You know, he moved to California. But I was the guy he called up when he was doing indie comics, like semi-autobiographical stuff. And I think he did a book with Jason Lutz,
The
I
Fall.
think called The Fall.
Um,
And
One of my favorite books. I
it's
recommend
great.
that to everybody when I
It's
work with
great.
families.
And then he called me up because he needed a place to crash in New York so he could try to get the Batman gig
Hmm.
because Bob Schreck had just become editor and they were pals. And he got the gig and we had a fun night that night, a whole bunch of cartoonists. And there was a moment where because I lived on uh was I in was I in Brooklyn or I don't remember. I think we went out to like the Lower East Side and it was Thompson Square Park, and we're all celebrating Ed getting his Batman gig, and we're sitting on these church steps drinking Old English 800, right? And suddenly a cop car comes by, and we're like, "Oh shit, we're about to get busted." And Ed says, "Don't worry, I got this." And we're like, "Really?" And he walks over to the cops, and he tells them, "I'm the new writer of Batman," and they were like, "Get the fuck out!" Like, not that they didn't believe him, they were just like, "Scram, kid, before we
Like
arrest
it
you."
doesn't matter. Get out of here.
But I love that his tactic was to tell them, I'm the new writer of Batman. And that was so adorable. And yet, come on, man, get out of here. But he went on to write, basically uh, um, bring back Bucky from Captain America
Hmm.
and create the Winter Soldier out of him, which has become such a great character at Marvel and in the movies. He also wrote many, many crime comics. There's some of the best crime comics I think written today.
Criminal, Fatal, uh,
Yep.
Sleeper, which is another one that he did at Wildstorm. That
Yeah.
is that's in Wildstorm's continuity, but it's not. It's such a good book. Then he did everything he does with Sean Phillips is just perfect, like
Right.
absolutely perfect. And
Absolutely.
he did a couple of different graphic novels, within the criminal universe. He did a book about the 1950s Hollywood, like
Yep.
late 40s, which, if I'm not mistaken, his dad was a screenwriter.
I believe his grandfather
Grandfather.
might
That's
have been. I think his dad, like he was, what do you call the kids who are on the in the military and they're
Army brats.
army brats. I think he was an army brat kid and lived in ports for a while.
Right?
I believe his grandfather worked in Hollywood, and possibly as a screenwriter, if not a producer.
Mhm.
And so he has it in him. And
But I think
he's
informed a lot of that, because it's a very I'm sure that if I were to sit with Ed by ourselves and not like at a table with a bunch of people and we just talked about James Elroy, we would probably sit there for hours.
oh
Because,
sure.
like we have that kind of aesthetic, in our DNA. And he's just when I've sat and actually had a chance to talk with Ed, he's just so like he's jaded but enthusiastic. I don't know how you pull that off. You know what I mean? Like he's,
Right.
he's so over it, but he's still excited to do the work.
Sure. He's still excavating the gold, right?
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
And squeezing out what you can get left out of it. And he manages to pull it off, like he puts out one or two graphic novels a year. He also has Hollywood, he's worked with what's his name? Refn, Refn, the director
Oh,
who did
Nicholas.
Drive,
Yeah,
Nicholas Refn. And I believe they're doing a criminal TV show right
I
now.
think for Amazon, uh,
Yeah.
perhaps. But
And he's worked on Batman and Captain America, and he's just a great writer.
and Fraction's done stuff in Hollywood too. I can't remember what he worked
He
on.
just recently did Monarch, which is the Godzilla
Right.
universe, TV show. Um, but just to bring up Greg Rucka and Rick Remender, because you were saying it's more the match is Ed Brubaker versus Greg Rucka and Matt Fraction versus Rick Remender. Talk about Greg Rucka briefly and Rick
Greg,
Remender.
Greg is another like cut his teeth writing books, writing novels.
Hmm.
Did some stuff for Oni Press, like Whiteout, Queen and
Yep.
Country,
Yep.
Queen and Country, which not for nothing launched the careers of many an artist, Joel
Hmm.
Jones, Chris Somney, Brian Hurt, you name it, like any guy that started in indie comics that are now
Right.
big names, they probably worked on Queen and Country. Mike Hawthorne, another one.
Right.
Um, So I think Greg not only has a great eye for dialogue and not necessarily crime stories, but
Right.
his uh, books. Kodiak was one of them. Those books are mostly detective, private eye kind of
Right.
books. So like he's got that in him and stuff. And like I have been confused for Greg Rucka by two people in my life. One of them was Greg Rucka's wife, and
Oh my God.
and the other one was Chris Cross, who came up to me in Jim Hanley's universe while I was going through the back issue bins, putting stuff in. He must have thought I was shopping. Chris
Right.
goes, "Congratulations on the new gig." I was like, "Oh, thanks. What am I doing?" And he goes, "You just got the Incredible Hulk gig, didn't you?" And I was like, "Oh, it's news to me."
Right. Right.
Meanwhile, he thought I was Greg Rucka.
That's hilarious.
So,
That's
and then like when you look at Greg's crime work on books like Daredevil, Elektra, uh,
right.
Gotham Central with Ed Brubaker, Batman itself. It's nuanced. It's obviously like I don't think he would have been hired, and they wouldn't have come back to the well as many times as he's done if he wasn't capable. Like he's obviously capable of writing these characters and writing
Yeah.
the storylines. He's currently doing the weirdest, most interesting book I've ever heard of. And it's Cheshire and Cheetah robbing the JLA.
What?
Like it's a heist book of Cheshire, who is from Teen Titans,
Right.
Cheetah, the Wonder Woman villain,
Yep.
basically breaking into the Hall of Justice and robbing.
And
Like,
that's a mini series, or is that
yeah,
part of the gym?
it's a
Wow.
mini. Like, what an interesting, who would think of that?
That's great.
And then on top of that, like on top of everything else, he is extremely focused on presenting female characters that are not in peril, that
Right.
stand on their own. His Wonder Woman, the Hikatea, which was basically Wonder Woman's foot stepping on Batman on the cover, that Jessica
Yep.
Jones. What an amazing book! Like just again, like pro-feminist. Like I think his mom um, brought him up that way, and he gave me. If you remember, I was talking about Dan Goldman and the advice that Dan gave me
Yep.
on that page. I said is a quote from James DeMatteis and a story, but basically a quote from Greg Rucka, where it was he was getting ready for his wedding to Jen Van Meter, another fantastic writer, and his friend sent him a text or something that said WF. No, that said it wasn't W. It was he called him and he said, "Right fucking now, asshole." And he was telling him to hurry up. We have to go. But Greg was thinking, "Right, WRIT."
Right.
And like it's like that's his like mantra. Like that's amazing.
Right. Right. Fucking now.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. I love that. And Remender.
Rick is an anomaly to me. Fantastic. Like I mean, he's another guy that comes from the indie world that I almost want to say self-published world before being an indie guy.
What
Uh,
was the agent comic he did? Not Secret Agent. Fear Agent.
yes, yeah,
He did Fear Agent. He also dared to basically, in a way, write the sequel to Jack Kirby's Captain America run, like this, how bananas and weird that when he came back to Marvel and wrote and drew Captain America
Mad
and the
Bomb.
Mad Bomb story and all that. And then he kind of did like a spiritual sequel with John Romita Jr.,
Mhm.
where I think Captain America gets onto like an F train or something, and it just goes to the future. It's and he gets lost in the future where he has like a son,
Yeah,
and it's just insane.
and that's what I mean about like him and Fraction. It's like they take these weird swings, man, and
Yeah,
like
you're right. You're right
some
about
of them are
that.
so wild and like, why would you ever? And then
Right,
some of them are just like, how did no one else think of this? Or why did
right.
no one else? This is probably the better accusation against them. Why did no one else dare to
Yep,
do this? Because I
yep.
think they're the only two that think in terms of, well, why can't I do it? Like if
right.
you're giving me the work, you're hiring me to do this. Why would I not
I
step
mean,
on
think
this thing?
about, yeah, Fraction did Sex Criminals with Chip Zdarsky,
Mhm.
like they do go next level, with their writing. Um, there are definitely some writers you think about them and you think, oh, they're poets or they're very literary or they're imaginauts, And sometimes you read a writer and they're like, that dude is a cartoon. Like he is drawing with his words,
Yeah,
like that's a comic book artist using text,
right.
like with the way they come up with these kooky ideas, and keep it comics
And I
in a
think the
way.
thing about Rick and Matt is that, as wild as they might come out, as daring as they are, because they're possibly the most, I wouldn't say the biggest daredevils, but they are probably the most well-known daredevils for the stories they tell. Chip would be the other one, but like they are the ones that whenever someone says, "Why are you doing this story?" their answer is invariably, "Why not?" And like I
Hmm.
think that speaks more to um, where they came from, like in
Hmm.
terms of like their stories, like how they started out
Right,
doing
right,
like Oni Press or uh Alterna or whatever alternative press or whatever,
right.
and then getting the opportunities to swing those weird swings, like why would you wouldn't write Wonder Woman like Love and Rockets, but those guys would.
Yeah,
Why wouldn't you? And I
sure.
think that's the thing about those two is that they are definitely like the daredevils that will sit there and go, "There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to do this." Um,
Also,
Pratchett,
I feel like they understand that um teams take over for a little while, 6 months to 3 or 4 years, and then they're out. And if you didn't like their run, someone else is going to come back in and
right?
do either, reboot it or take the baton and run with that storyline, or just bring it back to what the fans, like whatever. And
To
so
that
they're going to take a swing, and luckily they have editors that believe in them too.
to that point, going back to Brubaker, there's no reason why anyone would trust this guy with Captain America when he killed him off. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like the other one was he took over Daredevil after Bendis.
Yep.
That was if you read the Bendis run of Daredevil, that was an impossibility that anybody like you
Right.
would think, oh, well, they're just going to reboot it, and they didn't reboot
Right.
it. He like
Right.
Bendis had Daredevil arrested. Brubaker's first issue was Daredevil in prison, like,
Right. Right.
and he almost seems to relish the challenge of being put into a corner. Like there's a ferocity and feral nature to both Rucka and Brubaker that
Right.
forms their work. Like they're very pugilistic in that way.
And that's a great way of putting it. And then, and then our guy Mark Waid shows up and does Daredevil and just and takes away some of that darkness that he
Yeah,
was living through and tells these other great stories, almost like Steve Ditko type. And also to go back to Wade for a second, give him props. He's one of his Fantastic Four run with Mark Waringo.
Michael Ringo. Yeah.
Sorry, Mike Rowingo is one of the best
Hmm.
ever. And actually they had done a Flash series together that I've never read that was also recommended.
Yeah.
Um, no, these guys are incredible writers. In fact, we're going to cut it off here because the next one's going to be a great way to begin next talk.
So between Rucka and Brubaker, I'm going to say Rucka. Uh,
I'm going with Brubaker.
I think there's with between Fraction and Remender, I would say Remender, and it's the same, almost the same reason, and it's because these four guys, these four writers, are relatively in the same sphere. But the thing about Remender and Rucka that I appreciate is that there is a almost surgical strike with like a hunting knife instead of a scalpel. You know,
Sure.
it's a clean cut. but it shouldn't be that clean. And whereas
Mm,
like I think Brubaker and Fraction have this talent with dialogue, and
hmm.
sometimes some of that can get a little muddy, but not necessarily muddy in a bad way. Like it's
Right.
just we're obfuscating a couple of things so that you don't figure it out right away or something. Whereas if you read Queen and Country, God, is that an amazing run of stories? And like they're so like talking about James Bond like we did before, they're so clean and cut and like it's like the perfect cut of steak if you were using a chainsaw. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
Like it should not
hmm.
be that clean, but it is.
Mm.
And that's how I feel about Remender. And
It's like you're talking about a certain kind of brutality,
yeah,
brutalism. So, yeah, I guess I go with Brubaker, and God, it's hard between Fraction and Remender, but I feel like Remender more might be more up my alley, if that
mm,
makes sense.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
all right, well, we got four verses out of that one
I love
instead
you,
of
Matt.
three.
I just want to say, Matt Fraction, if you're watching this, I do love you, buddy.
Oh, we love Matt Fraction, of course. That's why I hate even doing
Oh
this
yeah,
in this
I
way.
think
But we give him props. We give him all props. That's why we're
absolutely.
talking about all
I think Matt would be 100% fine with our choices. But like,
the
I like I used to talk to Matt pretty regularly, and we used to go back and forth on music. And
right,
like, Matt and I, if Matt and I, if I had to choose somebody in this setting, in the versus setting between Rick and Matt based on music, I would choose Matt.
right,
But like,
right.
I'm just like, and it's like I said, there's such a surgical weirdness that I just like appreciate between Remender and Rucka. I like how dirty Brubaker's stories are. Like I do, but they're not for everyone. But, like
Mm.
it's a certain aesthetic that I really appreciate. And with Matt, my God, his new Batman is just fun. Like, and I
I
think
have got to pick that up, man.
it's a lot of fun.
And another Brubaker book that we didn't talk about was Friday.
Oh my goodness, yeah,
It's really good. So, and he's done other stuff with Marcos Martin. They're another great
yeah.
team up. So he's got some great artists he works with.
I don't think you get any better than Sean Phillips. Like their collaboration is
It's sublime. It is sublime.
Kirby level. Like it's
Yeah.
something that like whenever they work together, it's special.
Yep.
And
Yep.
like I couldn't imagine who Rucka's Kirby would be because
Mm,
he's launched so many of these guys that we love.
sure.
The same thing with Rick. I would say Jerome Pena is probably Rick's Kirby.
Sure.
The guy that did Fear Agent with him. Uh,
Yep.
and I don't think, and I think, for better or for worse, depending on your take on things, I would say Matt for now is probably tied closer to either David Aja or Chip.
Mm. Oh, we
Like
didn't even talk about Fractions Hawkeye.
Hawkeye, I love. I was gonna mention it, but I think it's just gilding the lily.
Oh my God. Then it makes it's so hard. That's why these guys are so great. You
Yeah,
know,
that's why
they're so
we're
great.
that's why we have a podcast.
That's why we have the bite. That's right.
All right.
All right. Well,
Let's make sure everybody remembers to look in our links. Dean's Kickstarter currently has 11 more days and just 200 and something more dollars to go. That could be done by one person. Like it's very simple. But we're going to make sure everybody tries to get in on it before it ends. Uh, Thank you very much, everyone, for listening and for watching us and for hanging with us for 2 hours plus. So 41 next week is going to be 42, and that means there's 10 more episodes until we have 1 year of Vito X Dino. That's
I
absolutely.
guess we're gonna have to figure out if we're doing the Vino Awards.
Oh, we're doing the Vino Awards, even if it's just like in
Awards.
just like between us on the show, just saying what we're going to do. But
All right.
thank
Well,
you, everybody.
okay.
Yay, yay. Good night.